Well, the first chapter of the book Genesis, profound and poetic story of the beginning of everything, shows that without the Spirit of God, there is only chaos. Nothing makes sense. Order begins only when the Spirit of God, the Ruach, the wind, the breath of God, blows into the chaos. And what the Creator does, if you listen carefully, is to separate all the elements of the cosmos. It's what you do when you have to tidy up a big mess. Separate everything in the sewing room or the workshop or your desk, my desk, or the kitchen dishes. Just separate them, make stacks. We've all done it. But first, you turn on the lights. Let there be light. And light is separated from the darkness. And the segments of time are separated one from another. Evening and morning, the first day, whether we refer to centuries or to nanoseconds, each moment is separated from the next. But time unfolding joins them in unbreakable relationship. Next, the ground is separated from the water, is separated from the atmosphere. The dome over the earth becomes distinct. And we've seen that dome in pictures from space, that beautiful, thin atmosphere around us. The atmosphere is separate, but as we now know more than ever, it is in a vital relationship with the earth. Then the sea is separated from the land, but again, not to be separate, not to be divided, but to be in a relationship. We know how vital the intertidal zone is, and the oxygen-producing oceans are for us, essential to the health of the planet. Next, the stars and the sun and the moon are identified and put in place to make seasons. Winter and spring and summer and autumn all become distinct, unless that is it's April in Canada. But those seasons hold life in relationship. As leaves fall, plants die off, bulbs and corms grow dormant and then revive and return to produce once again. Next, in Genesis 1, the birds and animals are introduced, bringing life. And this is a new dynamic introduced with the flora and fauna. Reproduction, generation of life, creativity. Bear seeds, it says, bear fruit. Be fruitful and multiply. So we have separation, naming, that makes the elements of creation distinct. Not just to be different or divided, but to be in relationship. We have identity, we have relationship, and finally creativity, the generation of new life. A trinity of actions within the divine creative moment. The very nature of our God is a dynamic that sets apart, that leads to community, and that creates life. It turns out that within the very nature of God, there is community. God, the Creator, was never alone. The Hebrew Scriptures remind us of that female presence in creation. Wisdom. In the Wisdom of Solomon, we read, O God of my ancestors and Lord of mercy, who have made all things by your word and by your wisdom have formed humankind, with you is wisdom, she who knows your works and was present when you made the world. God was not talking alone when God said, let there be. The nature of God, in whose image we are created, is community, relationship, and of course, most of all, love. Humans are created for community, relationship, and love. In order to reflect the divine image, notice, we had to be created male and female. Process that for a second. God is not a male. God is not a female. The divine transcends and interconnects all gender. God's creation of humankind in the divine image names all genders, makes them distinct, not so that they can be divided and judge each other or dominate each other, but so that they can be in community, a community of collaboration and acceptance and respect. Like the rest of creation, identity, relationship, generation of life and love. But it's a fair question to ask, what is this three-in-one God up to? What is the real point? What is the mission statement of this divine community? Well, if you recall the refrain so lovingly read by Lynn, it repeated throughout that creation poem, and God saw that it was good. If the mission of the Creator was to make all things distinct and to create community and to generate new life, the underlying purpose was always to create goodness. That which is good. Our experience, the life we have, and the world that we live in is meant to be good. It's meant to be positive. It's meant to be joyful. Jesus says to his followers, I've said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. The angel who appeared to those terrified shepherds that night said, do not be afraid, for see, I'm bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. The will of the Creator is that there shall be joy in all of creation. However, this joy is not always evident. Something went wrong. There's an unholy amount of pain and suffering and death. As we learned some weeks ago when we read the gospel of the raising of Lazarus who had died, I remember Christine saying, not even Jesus could prevent death. There is brokenness, there's wrongdoing, there's abuse. There is evil. The next chapters of Genesis deal with this fact. Humanity opted out of the mission of goodness and joy. There's so much suffering around, we begin to believe that suffering, not joy, is the purpose. But that, my friends, is arrogance on our part. It is sheer arrogance to believe it is possible for us, the creature, to change the mission of the Creator. We can be persuaded by the horrid circumstances of terrorism, war, murder, pollution, disease, and the all-pervasive effect of profit-driven consumerism, that evil and suffering are indeed the final word in this creation. But that would be a terrible error. The mission of God has not been subverted by the foolishness and stupidity of humanity. Do we ever have doubts about that? Well, if we contemplate gun violence in schools and places of worship, we think of the senseless destruction and killing in Gaza or Ukraine or South Lebanon, or if we look at the widespread acceptance of lying and corruption in the government south of the border, we are presented with a disturbing picture of a creation in which joy gets sidetracked, interrupted, corrupted, subverted. I think our Creator would agree. That is why we had to be taught that there was no defeat of the divine pronouncement that the creation was good, very good. This is why the Creator took the extraordinary risk of subjecting the divine self to the conditions of time and flesh. God, outside of time, the Creator of time, entered time. God, outside of creation, entered into creation. God chose a small tribe and the illegitimate child of a teenager in that small tribe as the divine entry point into this place where there is evening and morning, day by day, and where there is criminality, disease, even, as Jesus found out, wrongful execution. By coming in Jesus Christ, by giving his life for the healing of the world, the Creator affirmed once for all in that resurrection the mission of the divine to create a community whose main purpose and outcome should be joy. So the Trinity, the Creator, the Spirit of God full of wisdom, and the Incarnate One, all one and the same but distinct, make up this divine community with the mission to bring joy, to restore joy, when it's been taken away, to inspire joy where there is sadness, to bring the joy of hope where there is devastation. So the Trinity is not some intellectually confusing doctrine. It is the expression of the mission of God. And that mission is the joy of the cosmos, the healing of all our loneliness and pain and suffering. In this doctrine of Trinity, we find the mission of the church. The mission that we take on when we're baptized in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit is the mission to heal this creation so that it truly is very good. Our mission is not merely to build or to save churches or to have congregations and pastors. I would say to the new Christian nationalists in the U.S., it is not the Christian mission to create a white-led nation that allows one kind of belief in a male-dominant prosperity God. That is not Christianity. No, the Christian mission is to bring good news, to put flesh onto the spirit of God's love for all peoples, for all creatures, for this whole planet, so that it can all be very good.